the talk, which is why everyone's come. Philip Boyle. Philip is going to talk on Eileen Gray, and that's really all I'm going to say.
Okay. Should we have the
You were founding member of UK, aren't you?
No, not quite.
Almost a founding member of Docomomo UK. So, yeah. And Philip is obviously a really important, not obviously, Philip is a really important member of the
what he's saying is I've been around a long time. It's with great trepidation, actually, that I'm standing up here and talking about Eileen Gray, because there has been so much written and said. There's been so much written and said about her. And in particular, her main work, this house. I've got up there a quote from what's on the door. Yes, did have a bit of light for somebody, but. I'm coming at her from the point of view of the age that I am, that is someone who probably absorbed the Smithsons an awful lot, they, as part of their wisdom, produced this book on what they defined as the heroic period in modernism, which is quite a slim book, but I think actually focuses on what is, to me, in terms of modernism, the most interesting, fruitful period to look at in more detail. And quite honestly, in their book, there is one image taken from this house without much comment. That's one reason I'm coming to that. The other thing the Smithsons did was they were very down on models. They thought models were not really to do with architecture. They did them when they had to, but they couldn't see much point. They're far too lightweight and frivolous sort of thing. Myself, I'm concerned about how you can actually use three-dimensional things like models at different scales, not the sort you show clients, but the sort you can use to work things out as an architect. There isn't enough emphasis on that. So putting those two things together, when there were obviously problems about the French recognizing Eileen's work about 20 years ago, and I'd been there in the 80s and seen what a bad condition this house was in, I started thinking about trying to relate the furniture and the fittings that she did with the actual building. Anyway, so that's a bit of the model, a picture of it up there at the edge. And I'd started off by talking about the quote as you go in. My main reason for quoting that was that it's this bit that I thought was really interesting. That I should look at my screen and talk to you properly. That when in entering the house, she had this label up saying, "Do not laugh," which means she's requiring people to take her work seriously. So let's try and do that. I'm going to go through this bit fairly quickly before we get to the house. I apologize to those who know all this stuff already, basic stuff about dates and what went on, but I should try and sort of slant on it. What I'm saying there is that the footprint of the house that they designed for themselves was about 17.5 meters long and 4.5 meters wide. And it took 3 years to build, and she spent all that time on the site, most of it, with Badovici, getting it built. I think I can jump because I'm aware of the time. It says I'm going to talk about this model. Okay. Before we get to the house, the family itself, she was one of 5 children. And I was one of 5 children. It means that your family has stresses and strains, and goodness knows all sorts of things go on. But in this picture here, she's the small little girl sitting on her mum's lap. Next to her nearest to her sister Thora, who she did get on with and go on trips with quite a bit. Did above her father, who was a painter, and Ethel, the oldest daughter, who was the one who got them set up and got the title of Gray, which put them in a very good, wealthy, strong position. Eileen herself, I'm not going to go through all the history of what she did, but basically she went to the art school for a short while and then learnt lacquering in Soho, but moved to Paris in 1900. This is a picture. These are pictures from a modernist photographer a bit further on than that. I've got here when she went to Paris, a long list of people. I'm not going to tell you about all these people, but just to intimate that was where she took off. The first man there, Charles, he was the lacquer man that she met in Soho, who she brought over to Paris to work with her. The next two people there are women of the three her, Kathleen Bruce and Jessie Gwynn were the two who moved with her to Paris, and they shared a flat together. Kathleen Bruce was actually a sculptor, studied with Rodin, and was married to Scott of the Antarctic, the poor chap who lost a lot of other people's lives going to the South Pole. And she did a really nice bust, actually, of him, which you can see. The person I really want to draw attention to is Wyndham Lewis. Wyndham Lewis was several things, and fairly controversial later on in his career, but quite important when and I want to talk about him a little bit in a second. Down there, other people I would draw your attention to, Evelyn Wilde, who did the rugs with her, and down near the bottom, Louise Danny. Louise Danny was, when she set up herself working and living in the Rue Bonaparte, she needed help, she needed a maid, she advertised for a maid, and Louise Danny at the age of 18 turned up for this job, and I think she was asked if she could cook or not. She said she couldn't very well, but she was taken on anyway, and she became throughout Eileen's life, she was not just the maid, she dealt, a lot of Eileen's was done directly with craftsmen and people making things, and also with individual clients, with individual things. Louise Danny got the money brought in. She went out and made sure they kept going and really kept the ship going. So other than that, I put all those names there. I think because of the time we've got now, and if anybody has questions later on about how the relationship of any of the ones you notice that you know about, you'd like to know more about, bring them up in the questions. I wanted to talk about Wyndham Lewis. This is the cover of a pamphlet produced by Wyndham Lewis in 1919, the Caliph's design. Architects, where is your vortex? Well, of course, Wyndham Lewis was primarily the founder, mover and shover and shouter of Blast, the vorticist magazine. And I wanted to draw attention in terms of establishing modernism in England. I mean, I think he was one of the, I've got down here a list of people who really drove things on. And I could read out this long quote, but because of time, I'm not going to do it. Basically, what he's saying, and he's complaining about the complacency of the moderns in Bloomsbury in 1919, not getting on with things and not recognizing that the cubists are not going very far. And what he was saying was very, at that time, parallel with Corbusier and Osmond and L'Esprit Nouveau, that he was moving along there that she would then have become aware of in Paris. This is me repeating that, just showing what those were like. In the group, in the vorticist group, Frederick Etchells and John Rodko, there were a lot of people in it, but the ones that I wanted to bring out now, because Frederick Etchells was the man who translated Vers en Architecture from the French into the English, and John Rodko was the man who published Vers en Architecture in 1927, quite late on. So I just to remind you that he actually did a building that, this is a quote from, I've forgotten his name now, anyway, a guide to modern buildings in 1951. The first modern building in London. It's still there, by Frederick Etchells. So there is a link between those people. Of course, the main thing that Eileen Gray was doing was that she did travel an awful lot and do things. This is a picture of her in an aeroplane. She was friendly with people who, like the man who wanted to balloon or try ballooning across the channel first. She went to see him try and do this. She was around and modern with all these people at that time. But the main, I'll battle on now. Getting together with Badovici. This is she met. Badovici when he started this magazine, Architecture Vivante, in 23. I've got here, this is a page, there are 170 names there of this back page of L'Architecture Vivante in the 1920s of all the people that they thought they were collaborating with in modernism. And in fact, there's only one UK person there, and that is Gray. She's up, whoops, lost her. She's up here. out of the 170 at that time in this magazine, which was quite a, it was one of the few, which, as initially modernism was in Germany and Holland was in G magazine or ABC, which were sort of broadsheets that had very little on them, were sort of shouting from the top, rooftop. L'Architecture Vivante actually established, it went to architect and published the work properly in that period. And she came in onto that with Badovici right at that early time when she was doing lacquer work screens like this, which you'll be aware of, and that she'd had close relationships with the Still group. This is a postcard from Oud to her, and she went and she saw their work in Wils and Reitville and saw the house up there. I've put in what the building on the postcard is censored, actually. The chimney pot has been taken off. Oud didn't want it exported, his cubist, the Still thing. And again, another one with her. So she just showed that she was involved with these groups as things went on. And by 1922, she was doing furniture that's a model of one of Doesberg's things up top there. And the rugs that she was producing at her shop in Paris with her friends were very much influenced by de Still and abstraction. But the main force behind her, and whenever I've tried to talk to people who know far more than I do about I'm going to say Adolphe Rose, go to her, and I've put this quote in, which is a basic quote about making things comfortable and perceiving them sensually. That's a drawing by Kokoschka of Rose. This was when he went to Paris after having been city architect in Vienna. As part of her education with Badovici, she took his house, and she redesigned this one. Rather than the rooms going through, she got onto the front of it, redid it in a sort of flowing manner, a bit like Corbusier. So she was educating herself with that very much at that time. I put in this picture of Corbusier because it's from an earlier period. That's him probably, I'm not quite sure the date of this picture, but he's clearly the youngest son there with his father, Albert the brother, and his mother. And I put that there because the first thing I wanted to talk about was she did with Badovici in Architecture Vivante, they reviewed the Petit Villa au Bord du Lac. And I've talked to you before about this. I apologize to those people who've heard this before, but it is important that this building, this is a later quote, about the fact of the 11-meter long window really being the important thing of spatially linking things to the outside, it being, the last bit of that, it turns the gaze. When you've got that light shining on things, they become clear. And I have actually got myself an 11-meter long window, and it does change your life if you can afford one. When I'm going to show you this as well too. This is a drawing from Dublin to show that Eileen and Badovici, they had these, when they wrote up Petit Villa au Bord du Lac, they had these real drawings which showed exactly how it was put together and made. They've got a working drawing. I think they didn't put that in Architecture Vivante, but it's there in her possession. A lot of her things have disappeared and gone, but she had that drawing, so she knew about that building that saw there's Corbusier, Mrs. Corbusier, and their 11-meter window being dazzled by the light and the view. When they published it, they also got receipt of these sort of drawings that had been produced for that, and they published them in L'Architecture Vivante, the detailed ones about how the various parts of that building and the space in it were responding to the needs of that particular family. The father almost dying and very ill, the mother who played music and taught music, so the piano and how you did music was important to how the spaces worked. And Albert, and the mother lived there until she was 100 and something, so she used that building within the family. When she died, Albert, the composer person, he lived there. I'm not quite sure until he died, but he lived there for an awful long time. It's now become more new, but not many people have really looked heavily at that as a building. Right, to get to E1027 house itself. Right. This shows on the red dots that by 1926, Badovici and they decided that they were going. He'd convinced her to be an architect. She should build and do it. And she had toured quite a bit in the south of France. She liked the she went near Saint-Tropez. She travelled with her two rug-making pals with a donkey camping, I think, around the Bastille Blanche, the quite wild parts of that part of the world. That is a fairly recent map you're looking at there, and you can see the motorway now runs across this piece of land between Cap Martin and Menton, has a motorway that runs here. She purchased 3 pieces of land. One was this piece by the railway down at the bottom here, and then 2 pieces of land further up towards Castellar up here. And she assigned this piece of land in Badovici's land, so he actually owned the plot, but they were going to design and build and live in it together. That's a nearer view of that, the coastline there, which was basically near the railway station, but with very limited access, and to a footpath that was used for the douanier to catch the smugglers and things like that along the way there. The other one, Castellar, is up a windy road up above Menton. A personal note here, apart from being one of 5 children, my mother lived in Castellar between 1915 1925, and that's a picture of her quite near where that house was, and you can see the hills and what the landscape was like. Quite rough, the bare feet. Okay, and that's the actual bit that shows where E1027 was built down. Sorry. Okay, this is a photo by me in the 80s, going to see Corbusier's cabinet and going to the house, which is sort of behind where that square is in the middle there. It's behind that square bit, the house. So that's the view that you had from that coast that the house is located on. There it is sitting at the side. I think most of you would be familiar with these sort of views of it. It's all very white there. The awnings are blue, and I hadn't got round to making them blue on my model yet. But the rectangle there is basically this 17 metre by 4.5 metre house, single-story, set on the lemon tree groves that run along the side, orientated to follow the sun. This again, having read Corbusier. You orientate it. And that is the basic sort of footprint, if you like, of the house. You're going to see this plan a lot as I go on through things here, but the point of this one is to show that it in fact is an extremely porous building. Porous in the sense that you can enter and leave it at a number of points. The ones I've shown in red are the ones where you change level to get up into it at either end. You can get in at the middle where the entrance is here, and you can get from below, underneath it, up the staircase in the middle there. And I'm comparing this here with the footprint of the Petit Villa Bord du Lac. They're roughly about the same size. They're a long, thin rectangular place to live with their long rectangular window on the south side, and you enter on the other side. So organizationally, they are similar. They're very different once you've got inside, but what is similar about them is that they're designed particularly for the sensibilities and the use of the people within them. I've said a bit about the, and I'll move on actually and show what that really means. That's showing how they put together. That's the view you get from the Corbusier one, right? That's my photo of that. Mont Blanc is in the distance, and although I've been there several times, you very rarely see the mountains actually, but it is an incredible view. That's Richard Parr's photo of the view I've just shown you. Back to the main plan of the house. These drawings of hers are, well, to me, to an architect of my generation, put things of different scales on the same sheet next to each other is a great way of thinking, but I think it's very confusing to people outside. She's made it rather confusing for us as well too, because this particular, she shows the external walls of the building, showing solid static walls, but she shows this partition in the same way, which implies that partition is a wall like the other ones. In fact, it's not. That partition is of a limited height, which we're going to see lots of it, which is the same as the partition within the main part of the plan there. Right. The other thing is comparing the two. In the Corbusier villa, his mother playing music and practicing with the music, and perhaps people here listening to it, and his father being able to retire to this room out to the open air there. And the bedrooms, there aren't any doors between the things there are here, but and right back here. But the bathroom is in the same space as what you see in relation to the window. When we come to E1027, what is important, I've talked about that partition there, that in that corner of that partition and that piece of wall is this, what is a divan, about 2 meters odd square. It's not a bed, it's a divan. And how do we know that? It doesn't have a mosquito net. Anywhere else where you sleep in this house where there's a bed, you have a mosquito net to hand. In other words, although you could sleep on it, it isn't necessarily intended for that. It's intended for relaxing, and it's intended to flop, relax in relation to the view that is penetrating from the outside in the same way as so that as an organizational thing, it does follow through. This is another of her drawings. I think which is marvelous. You can study this drawing for ages. It actually puts together circulation of people doing various things together with the various. It leaves out some walls and it fills others in. I would draw attention to the fact that as well as the vertical staircase, there are 2 doors here, which you can hardly see. One of the interesting things about her spaces is that you have rooms, but doors are always discreetly hidden. Right, this is going on to the house. This is overall of this model that I've slaved away at, divided into 2 levels. There's the below part and the part above. This is a view into one of the rooms, an experiment I did. And I don't know how I did this photo, but in making a model, what I was after was trying to get to the atmosphere of the place, because it's now been reconstructed in its own, and it is very much to do with light. So this is in the work bedroom where you get morning light one side and not very much you've got it. So I started making this model, and the first part to do with the salon, the main bit on the main level. That's that from the sea side. That's a rather bad picture of it from above. That's with it on the other side, the salon not having built the rest, but looking at when the sun comes directly to this large window, what sort of, having the canvas means you can control it as much or as little as you like, light coming in at any time of year. Flexibility for that. Back to the entrance. On the entrance side, the shutters, which they developed, and I'll show you a bit about how they work. Shutters there in the wall leading in, and there the other window, which is to a shower area that I'm going to talk about a bit more. The shutters themselves, Badovici had quite a big say, and I think because he got patent for them. But basically, they slide and fold. They allow for ventilation as well as security and sunshade. And behind the windows are related dimensionally to the way the shutters work. So this is a piece of model. When you make it, you can deconstruct it, and you have a rail. So the shutters are designed to link in with the sizes and dimensions of the window behind. Now the overview of what goes on inside the main room, the salon room. Here, the early stages of me doing it, but you can see it from end on. And the thing to draw attention to here, I think, is that you enter at the point here, and there's this screen wall, which I'll come to in a minute here, and the screen wall at the other end. Okay, so it's there, it's screened off, and here it's screened off. The staircase itself is completely non-visible; it's hidden away around the back here. But ingeniously things slot and fit around it. That's her photo from L'Architecture Vivante of that saloon space. It's a bit wobbly in the middle because I've taken this from books, so where it's straight. What is important is that wall I took there that she drew in plan thickly, because I think probably because of the importance to her of what it does in terms of light and rest. Here's the big divan with a window on this side. Now a series of photos of my bits with the model, just going through a rug and chairs on the inside and the outside with light at different times. The tiles on here, on the drawing, the black ones extend in this way, in a rather distill way that with emphasizing the plane. In fact, as it's built, they aren't like that. The pale tiles go on that bit. I got that wrong. Okay, there's a bit of tiling you see in the middle there. There again, the views of from the outside, looking in to the furniture disposed of in a certain way. I just have a series of these sort of pictures that show how things are transparent, translucent, reflective, and the subtlety is the way that when you move things is how they can interrelate with the other bits. It's for spending time in relaxing. You're not going anywhere other than to go for a swim for a certain period of time. You use the furniture to chat or be with the other people you're there with. That's the line of where the tiles shown on this drawing, that was shown for the black tiles, that extra square didn't arrive there. I'm going to talk about this room in some detail. I'm going to start with this wall that runs along the back side of it, if you like, the one with the shutters facing onto the way you enter it, away from the main window, and the way that it works. It's made up of these various components, and the bit there's the map that she put on the wall, which basically wasn't a map itself, it was a tracing of a map, bringing out points and celebrating travelling. So you were reminded that you were there as a guest travelling, and it has various sort of jokes to deal with it. It has a light, so you can vary this vertical thing in the middle. Is a light plus a mirror that could actually vary the light in the evening time. And below this piece of wall here, where the main divan for flopping on, mostly covered in leather, I think at one point, there is a small table which folds away against the wall. The bottom triangle is hinged about that axis, and the top part of the thing is hinged here. It's in three parts, basically, this table, but you can fold it completely flat. It did survive for an awful long time. It doesn't, I mean, it may have been re-even. This is adding a few more things to that. That the window and the shutters, another version of the map, because at various times people put out a different version of it, the radiator and the heating pipes. I've got them wrong, they run right on, but never mind. Anyway, that table, the triangular bit fits up underneath it, and you get a rectangle on top divided into three places. Then on into that, there is a leg that comes down to support it, and a proper flopping on, putting things on piece of table, another glass shelf, and then a bright blue painted mirror on the soffit played there. So this is a very small scale picture. The working of this is as you're on your flop down bit of divan, you can, the end bit could have a little tray. It did have an aluminium tray that sat there that you kept the drinks separate from something that was dry or something else. It's quite a subtle little thing. Going on, I think there's the divan coming out from that wall, right? So the flat plane of the wall, which was done very steadily, is extended by the dimensions of the divan on the floor. And then you get the partition, which backs onto a shower space I'll come to. And the other bits of furniture can be added, like this small, here we go again, the table that you can raise up and down and slide underneath the bed that has 1/4 cut out of it so that you can get past the legs underneath and position it. It has flexibility of how you put it in relation to where you sit. There's a vertical screen. It's actually where I started with this one, and I did it all wrong, but it was broken down into squares like this, and white and blue, and slid with a track. I don't think the track ever worked very well, but it's a significant marker within the transition between these two spaces. But yeah, there's where the floor moves away, and I've moved up into the air so that spatially the space is now related to the wall behind it. That's her drawing that they put in Architecture Vivante of that. She only black and white. She was very frustrated not having colour photography not existing, but the colour was important, so she did this. And I think later on in her life, she didn't really like these things when she coloured up these photos. But they show the overall intent that I hope I've reflected in the model. Again, moving around now, you're seeing this from a different angle. That beyond the wall that's the partition wall that's here and the screen that's there, there is an area for a bed over there, and for a shower here, and for one of the two doors that go down to the sea outside. The end, I didn't say it when I was looking at the plan, but the basic external doors here are pocket doors with two glazed part that slid and a louvered part that slid. So they were very sophisticated, although they are doors, that architecturally they do an awful number of jobs. Showing that a bit closer to it, and you can see, we're looking at the end of this bit here. Right, moving around into the lobby, you get a divan bed here, which has a day bed. I've numbered it there, I think. There's a folding shelf here that swivels, that you can swivel to read in bed, or you can turn it, and if you're in a hammock outside, you could, I don't know whether you could read your book, but you could certainly put your book and your drink down from the outside, from a hammock, which if you were in the outside part of this sliding doors. This is that from a top view, showing that thing that you can move and fold it out. And the other end of the, away from the divan, there's a window here with a shutter with this tiny thing here. This is facing east, so in the morning there'll be light coming in that. Anybody who's asleep, you'd get a little bit of light, perhaps to wake you up if it was darker. And that's how that works, as if you were, I'm standing above the bed here, but that you have that shutter that opens, but it also has a small thing. So there's a variety of ways that you deal with the light waking up, going to sleep. Closer up of that, the little shelf where you put the drinks, and the electric light switches and things that you can fill. That shows the door, part of the wall taken away, so you could see the pocket doors sliding into the wall and away. All of that from the outside and overall. This is plan of that, and an outside view of that, real photo, an outside view of that wall, a real photo with a hammock of the view you get from that. So that's one. What that is it's not so much a room, but it's a space which you can use, I think, to be very much on your own and retreat from being too sociable if you want to. It's porous and relaxed. That's the view of that from the outside. What you see in that is this gate here, which makes the place more secure, but it pivots in this nice sort of constructivist type. There. This is one of Wilfred Wang, one of the better books that's been produced, drawing of a lot of things I've just been talking about, done in an axonometric. In Berlin, he did a reconstruction of the bedroom, actually, not this bit where this drawing comes from, just showing how all those things fit together. The things about the what's on the wall relating to, all these things relate together. The fireplace, which you can see through and beyond. Going on to the shower bit behind, which is, look at this shower, how all this works. We've heard about the screen here. What there is here between the bed and the shower, there is this, I think it's marvelous, it's very simple, cupboard there, which is this thing. You can see it here from above, that it's a lower height than the screen there. So somebody standing here can see the head of somebody here and can converse, but the cupboard acts as a sort of modesty screen in between the two. That's looking at that from above. That's the only really good photo evidence there was of how this shower worked. I thought that this curved thing here was probably made in metal. There was definitely something solid and waterproofy in this. In fact, I think it's probably a plastic cellulose thing. Not. I made it now. I thought it was going to be an aluminium. I've shown it here, which is a mistake on my part. But that cupboard goes between the two. And it has these drawers that open in various ways, which is going on from the still about how planes, no, I don't think, the sensitivity of thinking up a thing like this. That's the thing itself. It did survive. It got rescued or bought by the Pompidou. A drawing of it. What I found was in making this thing, you had having the right dimensions in order to make a model. You need to have enough information, and her drawings, they often double square happens very, very, very frequently, much more frequently. There are some golden section things, but mainly double squares, multiples of squares. dimensions that she used. That's a breakdown of this cupboard because and that's the view you'd get if you were looking at it from where the daybed was. So you can see through at the bottom, see over the top. Same thing near to the bits of bathroom. I don't think the colours are quite right here, but I got carried away with this aluminium thing. The idea of it. But anyway, there was a thing there to show that of that sort. Coming to the fittings themselves, this is a picture of the ones that I've made. There's the sliding screens for the doors to the outside, the internal ones you've seen, the one I made by mistake, which was all the wrong colour, the box here that I've shown you between these two things. Then a couple of tables doing different things inside, and we've seen this one. And then the chairs, the Bibendium chair, the Transat chair, the non-conformist chair. And the most fascinating one is this one, this low one here, which is, you'd think looking at it that it was a bed, but it's only sort of 12 to 1400 long. If you lay on it, your legs, especially if you're quite tall, would fall off. So it's a flopping, it's a sort of half chair, half couch thing. That's a picture of it there, because I really was interested in the dimensions of that. And she did have them quite short, because Aram does mass produce these things now. He's turned it into a full bed length thing, which if you go to the cinema at Thingy Bob, you can sit on them. Right, the thinner chairs. The clear thing there is that the tables with the tubular legs mean that when you're sitting, what you see is less. So we've seen this famous one. You know what that does? It goes up and down by a bed. This is a dining table which can extend this way. There were two of these. One's now in MoMA in New York. Don't know where the other one is, but you could extend this to a double length. But it has a light that you can move up and down. You could, depending on how many people are eating, you could multiply. This is for serving tea. It has an ordinary bit, and then a bit you can make thinner in two ways, and two ways of having cakes on little stands that twirl up above. I mean, that's a really fanciful thing, isn't it? I've found a photo of it in use, which we'll come to in a minute, I think. The chairs talking to each other. The chairs in relation to the windows. Now again, the thinness and the way the mind and the sensibility saying how big and how thick and how thin a thing is brought out a bit by this. These are the sliding shutters and a Transat chair. Same thing again. The Transat, again, the furniture with the outside. Outside, but this is still dealing with the one level. Then trying to think about what happened if you did alter the lighting in these places, what happens in terms of reflections. So the thing that, if it's not got any cakes on it, it's twinkling at you there. The one on the wall will twinkle at you as well. The Bibendium definitely won't, the contrast between the thing. Again, variations on that light. This is a bar in a vertical position between where drinks are served and where the dining table is. There's a Corb mural on this wall now. Again, low level there, lights twinkling, reflecting. I having got these bits and pieces, I just played with them, all right? As I think you could do if you were living there, you could move them around. Here's Badovici. This is one of the stills. There's a still from Corbusier's 60mm film he shot, and Tim Benton produced a book of the stills. So you can see it there actually in use. That is Jean Badovici, and there's the dining table over there, and the cake one is somewhere over there, and there's a Transat chair. That should remind you that light fitting that's been brought in by him. The Corb and they love these grass lights, all right, and there's a grass light in the Petit Corb. There's Yvonne Corbusier. I haven't got a picture I could do of Eileen Gray in the house, but this is Yvonne is standing in, or rather sitting in on the divan. Okay, and there you can see the table behind. Again, that space, perhaps when in the evening and you're just in there, that the main room could be isolated, but that you would feel the terrace outside. I've got Badovici standing out there looking at the sunset, and I've got Yvonne in there knitting or something. Anyway, so again, using light to show the thinness of the sliding doors and the furniture height, the window on the other side with the shutters, which of course you do the reverse to, that if the weather's not right outside, you bind down this side and you open up the other side, you could see the lemon growth. She's talked about that. Transparent again. Another way of looking at the furniture, this is an earlier stage with the model where there's less there, but just putting the furniture in quite simple surrounding, because what you get with the thing about models being crude is that you can wonder about things. I mean, this has got reflections and volumes and things, but it's not particularly realistic. Photography is far too real. And models, again, showing the bibendium and the transat occupied. This is the photo I found here. You can see here the thin tables with the teacups and all they're cork covered because of the noise of things tinkling and being put up and down. But they probably stuck better for the drinks and stuff that are lying around. That's the only photo I could find of those things in action, so to speak. More photos of the model, so you could get an idea of the space and imagine the sorts of things that's in the real photo happening. That's a side view of that, where we started with that table there. That really intrigued me, that table with its two bits, and there being a mirror under here, that if you're lying on this, that things clatter and shine. Occupied. More dark lighting. The dining table. The dining table as it is in MoMA. There's a dining table at the end with a sort of bench type one where you could sit with a shutters to the bedroom next door. The bar up and the bar down. Drinks. The diagram of that, I think, is more. It takes time to work out what line means what in this, and I recommend having a look at the circulation of how things are blocked off or to happen. Back to the overall view again of the salon room, right? In a simple way. We're going to go and look at the entrance part now, which Corbusier took exception to. There you are. So, furniture in the middle of that space in a simple way. Right, now the partition for coming in with the staircase bit removed. So you can see as you come in, there's this curved green wall with a rail and then a break and then another wall and a curved one, quite ship-like at the end, which is a cupboard for coats. That's that in reality. The Défense de Rire quote is on the wall up here by a light. Somebody said they thought the joke was one that the light was a sort of phallic, but I can't quite go with that one. But anyway, I think that the don't laugh too much is here where you've been through part of a sequence of spaces and you're about to go into this big one and you know it, you're coming to it. Overviews of how those things relate. This one shows it more clearly that you get a mirror on this side, on this line here, having moved. Here is the staircase wall, not there, all right, in this, but this wall has a mirror opposite this one. So in terms of seeing that your hat or your hair is right, you can see back and front across that space. People talk this, you could put umbrellas, but I think it's anything, if you've been out bathing, if you wanted to drop your rather grubby wet towel or something, you could flop it there. This is the main sort of coat thing that opens up. And when it opens up, it's light and on the other side obscures the dark. So immediately the space becomes more lit, all right? And you've got a sliding thing here where you can hang your coats, which if you're arriving, certainly, and you want to get rid of them, they can be slid away with. On this side, there's a lovely big cupboard at low level that really is quite big that you could shove things in, so you can understand it. That's the plan of that. And this bit looks so complicated. At the higher level, it has a place for putting your hats. There's a mirror on this wall, and below, in all these wobbly lines, there are a series of cupboards at various heights for putting things. That's the reverse view with a Corbusier mural on it. And when you're entering here, you would get the sans interdit is written. Sans interdit is written there and incorporated in the Corb mural. And entrez lentement means go slowly, which is before you get the do not laugh when you get to here. So you've got used to instructions. Again, with guests, this is social interaction. Airbnb, overview of the salon relating to the entrance. Again, this is going on the other side yet. This is the model before the bedroom has been made. What this shows is that the flooring here of this lobby is where the two doors are. There's a door there, which you don't see from the main room, and it's dark, and this is where the drinks are kept in the ring, and there's another door there to stop you going into the bedroom. Above a bit of the staircase. This shows that a bit more clearly, actually. There's a passage here, entrance to the staircase above and below. So all this is completely separated from all of that big space. You do have a large feeling of space. I'm going the wrong way. A space going there, and the bedroom comes on this side. I've shown you the windows before as a repeat. That is more or less overall what happens on the outside. Now, I'm showing you this because we're going to come to the bedroom. I've talked about the Corb mural you saw was on that wall there, and we've been through this space. Over here is the dining space, and along this line here is this bar that folds up and down, and behind it, place for drinks, and set back in there, the door you don't see, to what is a workspace plus bedroom. And I'm going to go on and show you what happens in that. That's her picture of that. So we've come around and it's looking back. There's a bathroom behind it. The door from the drinks party is over on this side, and this is from the workspace looking at the bed with this multitude of things on it and a board at the back and a thing for mosquito nets. And on this side, a reflecting aluminium cupboard for toiletries and things. This one is actually a stationary cupboard and had, I don't know where it's gone, it's disappeared completely, I think, but it did have all sorts of different coloured things for places for putting stationery. And this is the end of a little filing cabinet. Anyway, this is a model view of that at right angles, all right? The last view of this was from behind here, looking across in this direction at the bed. And the reason for the fluffy thing on the bed and the fluffy thing she's got was her thing was that if you were lying around and you were reading and you had things, you could obscure there was a mess. There was a sort of designed mess that this thing got absorbed into it. That's that same view as you've just seen, right, showing where on the bit that isn't there is this shuttered window. This is above. Now you can see more clearly there's a work area down here, which is, sorry, that part of that there, with a fluffy thing on top and the bed with these things going on. And then behind here, under the window, these marvellous little aluminium shells and blue for putting all your knickknacks. And a basin there, and a stool, which is not designed by her. It's a dentist's chair. She just took and used it. So it turns varies, so you can sit to do. That a bit closer. Now that picture shows you the workspace part of that, a drawing table and a filing cabinet there. And here's this movable cupboard, which is in the Pompidou now, and a mini cupboard with all your washing things put into it. That's from a more natural view. If you were standing inside, got you inside of it now. So the relationship of the bed and the stationary cupboard, and this you can see over. Because the two spaces are defined in terms of light differently. That there's a light fitting. But I don't know when it got in by the time she was there, or that it got put in after she'd left. But there was a light here over the drawing things that determines the atmosphere of that part of the room being quite separate from the sleeping part. That again with a stationary cupboard, showing it red, whether it was or not, I don't know, but somebody said it was. So I'm going to go doing it that way. The cupboard, there's the cupboard, the lined cupboard, done in aluminium inside with cork on top. That still exists and is in the Pompidou. The bed itself was folding out. I made it in the model so this thing can swing out and do things. The clock and the switches that you could do while you're in bed, the thing for the mosquito net. This is a door to the bathroom. Immediately behind that, there's a marvelous cupboard, which you can see when you open the door, that if you want to drop your dressing gown or something, it's just on the other side. Taking the bed away to show how actually these walls were done in different colours, so that you can see how these pieces fit together. Because you'd be lying around, you wouldn't see that, you wouldn't be looking like this, but they are composed. They're a broader view. Looking back, that's the passageway through from the dining room and the filing cabinet, all in metal. I couldn't make that properly to the right scale, but you could have a bed on the outside. If you take the shutters off on the work part, you could go out. In the morning, the light would come in this direction. That's the sort of morning light. Views darker and from outside. There to this side here, that filing cabinet, it's like that. At 1 to 10 scale, I had to choose a scale to do things at, and at 1 to 10, that really is a bit beyond my capacity to make, so it's a bit crude. Again, that room on its own with the outside walls, so you can see it here, this, sorry, the cupboard for this is the bathroom is on this side here, and this cupboard here is right next to it, so you just have to open the door and you can go to it. The daybed part on the outside, which could have a bit, I put the chair there, I haven't got a bed there, outside. Views through the windows again. Again, so I haven't got the blue thing, but this is just showing that the canvas has its own particular characteristic. That I got carried away with this tissue paper. Actually, it was probably meant blue and therefore more strident, but it affects the light together with the sizes of the membranes of various things. Well, I'm afraid what this is about is the sizes of how these windows work in your experience of the space. Looking back, that's with them right down to make it very soft light on the bit of light you get. The side here, I didn't explain, this part here is a shelf for records to go on the gramophone that they had in that corner. It's a sort of music corner. Again, an echo of the Corbusier close-ups of furniture in a sort of soft light, not very bright light. I can't do the rugs properly because I haven't found a material to make them out of, but here are a series of these that really do show that this wall at the end here, the partition, is really architecturally one of the most important things in the whole place, the whiteness of that in relation to everything else. That again coming up. And the small table to the side, and the Vivendium chair. And here, so at this point, I've got to the point of having the ceiling in there. The ceiling I've not done very well because it was suspended from above and had the electric wires that move around at high level. She was very much against cornices, but in fact, what happened here, instead of a cornice running here, you get the electric cables thinly running around, which I haven't got. But compared with the earlier pictures of the model, having got inside it with a camera, the importance in terms of light of that wall becomes clearer. Outside with that. Underneath the undercroft, the Corbusier mural on the undercroft. On top, the lantern to the roof. Badovici, I think, probably had more of an input to this. I think, like Tatlin's tower, but a glazed top knot. There you can see with the stair coming up, precast concrete. While she was there, 3 years building this, I mean, the concrete work underneath is pretty rough, but when you get to the staircase, these risers and treads are perhaps manufactured, and the staircase, there's now a mural on the wall from drawings that she did that they've added back, but the cupboards that go up the inside of the ingenious collection of cupboards there. This shows the bedroom again without the bed, without the work bit at the other end. That gives you a clearer idea of what happens on this side of it, and the passage with the defense entree door here. Outside light showing the things, like how light falls on things, really. These are all light falling across. Again, now a series of ones inside, trying to do it dim, and thinking if there was light filtering through, what would the effect of it be on things. That here I've got one where the light's probably low, and that wall has got the shadow of the windows as they open, which again, it sort of animates it. Again, some of that, I did rather contrive these photos, but to try and do some sort of realistic lighting in there, how things might appear. A not so good flat one. More of the things in different positions. Now going down underneath in the undercroft. I'm going to look at what we have here basically is the part underneath without the salon on it and the structure running up, is to look at this area here, which is the guest room that's tucked in, guest room and the maid's room there, and how that's the landscape as it sits on the lemon groves as they run across. And over here just to show this is the area that's going to be occupied, with it not being occupied. This is open where they could. There's a cold mural there, and they did show films on the underneath. Right, this is a plan of the guest bedroom. This is the outside wall here. So you come in from the undercroft. You can come in here, or you can come from the stairs down to it. The maid there, the toilet and WC storage there. Sorry. We're going to look at this. What goes on in the guest bedroom here, which has a basin and a mirror on the wall there, and storage around this area, and the bed basically over here. That picture on the side there is what is a view of this space from back here. So you can see that that's a wardrobe that's there. This was, when I got in there in the 1980s, the only thing of the inside that was left was the back of this cupboard. And the back lining of that cupboard was covered with a sort of mesh, silvery mesh, and a grey paint onto it. I don't know what state it's in now. Right, now these are fittings that were installed in the guest bedroom. There was a writing desk, which is fixed and cantilevered to the wall on one side, a non-comfort chair. There was a screen made out of the most marvellous mesh. It's an industrial use that she got hold of, that she used for the screen. That's in that room, a bedside table, and a small table with special revolving doors to go in if you like, the basin bathroom bit of it. These are, I'm showing these things sort of separate, going up here, because it's quite difficult when you put them all together, as with the other rooms. With the modern scale, they become a bit crude. So if you do them really close with contrasted lighting, you can get an idea of the textures and the planes of these things. The desk for writing at, desk for writing at, desk for writing at. Now this is an overhead view of the walls of that room pulled apart, right? So I pulled the cupboard you saw with the hats and coats in, has an inside, so that's pulled back that way. The washing part pulled out that way. We have a mirror on the wall in the basin, a mirror there, and this thing you can move around and put it where you want to put it anywhere. Then the writing bit here against that wall there, and the bed over this way with its screen there, because that's probably the most used way of going in and out of that room. A picture showing how intricate that cupboard was. The way the number of folding and sliding bits and pieces, and top lighting between the beams you saw holding out the bit above. There's well, you can see it here in this. The over lighting both inside the cupboard and out for guests in that part. The dark colours used on these parts. The mirror, the famous one with the light in the middle, so you can see the back of your head when you're shaving or doing whatever you do. Another view of that side. The bed and the chair. Again, the light coming from two sources. That later in the day it would come in on that side there. Earlier in the day it would be shining directly on this part here. So I think depending on how late or early you got up, you had a different experience very much within the same space. There's contrasting things going on, and it's again more than one thing in a room, and there are specifically rooms. So all the things I've been showing you are rooms. They're not flowing spaces as you would get in a Corbusian flow. They are backed out of flows and rooms that are fashioned to be used. More of that. The view outside, with the shutters removed, top of that. I'm showing how the structure goes over the top of that. That's saying farewell to that. Okay, the best bedroom. Outside, there is the staircase that comes up to the bathroom on the side, an external. You get a shower down here outside, and then you come out the staircase here, and you can enter the bathroom there. There's that covered in. And door. This is takes a bit of understanding. This is the bathroom, which is added onto the back of the bedroom, and the entrance over here. There isn't really a stair in the entrance, but that's the entrance. You're not allowed to go in that bit, but there's the bathroom that runs through here, which relates to the bedroom that it's next to. This is probably an easier view to understand of the bathroom with a WC beyond and the winter kitchen on the other side there, and the bath. And this is the cupboard next to the bedroom. You go through there. That a bit closer to the sort of materials that were going on. She used these black tiles in relation to the bath and the overhead. Here's again there's actually a wall that goes through here, but this shows the inside of this cupboard. It has a triple folding door in the same way as there's a triple folding door to the lower bedroom. There's something very generous and kind about triple folding doors. She's used twice. Again, there's a triangular base. Up above this, there's a rod here which you can carry you can put your dressing gown. Also, this can act as a step because above here there's also a cupboard for very big suitcases. If you brought them in earlier when you're staying, you can sort of get out. So it's a seat and a standing thing. An awful lot of things it's possible to do within a very tight space. I mean, that it goes back to her interest in travelling in ships and ships' rooms. That you can make a lot out of a little. Outsides, roof. The entrance. The red may be the wrong colour, but there's the fittings on there. The entrance. The winter kitchen and the summer kitchen. Again, the beginning of the entrance without the landscaping going in, so you could see the volumes in relation to the part that go round. Roof. Water tanks above the two water tanks. These large volumes there, and that's the winter kitchen. The summer kitchen is in this part here. That in more detail. Okay, well that's the kitchens in the entrance. This is the landscaping building up. A view with the wall right off, so you can see how the bedroom workroom relates to the bathroom behind it here. Again to the kitchen and how the volumes. It's all quite the kitchen was quite tight actually, little sort of workspace here. I mean, poor old Louise Danny who had to work in this. Bathroom again showing those cupboards and the windows and the light fitting. A very beautiful light fitting, this one. And that big cupboard here, very big cupboard here, which by standing on this, you pop things up at a high level. Outside on the terrace. This trolley thing, which was for the gramophone, it was designed for that because a gramophone fits in there, and you could have one 78th. You could lay one out flat there, or you could stick one up sideways there. But there are also, I've seen pictures, I think, where it's not used for that, where there's flower decorations and things. So this is a sort of sheltered table that you can much more flexible than you'd think. And it's on 2 wheels, and you can pull it like a trolley. It could go downstairs or upstairs. And of course, you need a wandering lead. I don't think health and safety would approve of this one too much, but this is her wandering lead, so that if you have the wire tangled around, or if you want it for the gramophone or anything else, but I think it's mainly for the gramophone, you could take this, plug it in anywhere within the curtilage of the place and play music there. They had this in the, but I've seen this is in the exhibition they did at the Pompidou. They did a very good exhibition actually on Eileen Gray, the Pompidou. I think I'm coming slowly towards the end. A bit more endless views of occupation, inside and out. Occupation, inside and out. Scale, transparency, reflections, movement. The terrace. Now a bit more, I did at the end of doing the model, getting the landscaping right. I eventually got to doing that. It's taken a long time. That's it, overview of the whole thing. That's the reverse view with the landscape of the entrance way of coming in, that you come along the path. It broke down into these volumes. The roof. Terracing undercroft with a low sun, that the undercroft, if you had a low sun, you could there's the gramophone playing music, with the electricity coming on the wires, and the transat chair. That's her view of the terrace outside. I've not got as far as making that view. To end with really a quote from them about, this was in when it was published in Architecture Vivante, this is how the way they described how they were really concerned that modernism should be sympathetic and deal with wider values. And I think at the time that was being said, that was very true. For those, I have not talked about Corbusier or the murals at all, but a very formal letter from him, not having met her really, expressing, 1938, expressing his pleasure at that point, I think, in time, in rather restrained language. I'm not going to read it because the time is going on. Later on, after she had moved, after Eileen had moved on, Badovici with Corbusier and Yvonne. I got some statements about the relationships in case anybody were going to ask questions, because there's so much that has been written and said about the relationship between Corbusier and his murals and what did or didn't go on. I wasn't going to go in it, but if somebody wants to talk about it, I've got reference points of time. One of the main things that isn't really real is the boating accident that Corbusier had in 1928 when he was in Saint-Tropez. He was after a job, actually. He hoped there was a job he was going to get there. And he went to Saint-Tropez and had his morning swim and got run over by a boat, which was a very serious accident. He had a number of, and he did a lot of work with Vasile, with Badovici. I think this is my last one, is later on is Corbusier and Yvonne, and Badovici is still there with his third girlfriend, I think, there. I haven't gone on to the second house that she did, but what happens there is that this thing of how you relate walls, tant papai. I'm not going to talk about it, except refer you to the way the shutters and the wall work in the rear of it. She stepped it back. That's a wall with a shutter on top, looking at the view across. I showed you in the earlier photos of the hills that part up where my mother lived, and that had a similar lovely. They really are. I recommend spending time with her drawings, because there's an awful lot in them. close-up of things coming together. And the last thing I've got here, actually I thought I was throwing, this is a picture of a piece of furniture that Jim Sterling made for himself when he came down from Liverpool to London, a glass and slate table on chrome legs. I don't know whatever happened to it. I've taken this from the book he did in America when he just split up with Garn. But it's an echo of that. Thank you.